I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. We've got a guest speaker with us this evening. Michael Smith is the Executive Director for the National Eagle Center. He's been here a couple times. He's here tonight to give us an update on phase 2 of the expansion and talk about their 26-27 budget. Welcome. Sure, yeah, you can just join us at the podium so we can see and hear you the same.
Here, I'm just gonna move my microphone for the online audience.
Okay.
Well, you're a little more information than just that. I'll make it very fast and nice to see everyone. Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it. Been here since the end of March, so hedging up on 4 months now or whatever, yeah, so. But anyways, we're having some good results. So regarding the 27 financials, we're looking for a good year. I'm kind of liking the feel. I base off a lot of things off numbers, of course, but I can get a feel for how things are going and, you know, it kind of feels like we're in the right direction. The budget is included in your packet that I put at your station. So the budget's in there. And we got that Caroline back a while ago. So we're trying to be expeditious with those unlike in the past. Basically, looking at revenue of 1.94 million with expenses of 1,757. So that's kind of where we're at with that. The audit was completed. And we're going to move into the next audit in the month of November. We selected the date on that the other day. Did clear up quite a few things regarding restricted funds. Matter of fact, we actually have completed that and it will return to a zero balance like it should be once we get to that completion of the audit starting in November for 26. Basically came in and redesigned the entire fundraising program. It was virtually non-existent. There was really no cadence at all to what they were doing. So I came in, I put together a corporate donor program, kind of modeled after hotel rewards type of programs where we've got a platinum feather, gold feather, silver feather, and a bronze feather. And then I did the same on the individual donor program. It basically mirrors. There's a certain amount of things that everybody gets, like if they're platinum member, which is a $10,000 commitment annually, they get to adopt an Eagle or ambassador at the top level for adoption, so they get stuff that goes along with that. They get some free passes, you know, a lot of amenities that we put together to try to help people make the informed decision to support the National Eagle Center. So I think that was a good move. I met today with President of Sterling State Bank. I met with the owner of Haley Comfort Systems. They all felt good about the approach. So, but other people I've been talking to as well. Then we also we kind of revamped some things in the adoption program, which has been extremely successful for us. And then we went ahead and completely redid the membership program. Just made it more user friendly. It kind of created let's make sense of why somebody would be a member, you know, and So we've got as individual, individual plus, household, household plus, that's how we structured it. We added a new person to the team, which is coming down the line here, Noelle Soyson. She has a lot of experience in grants, so she is attacking, the grant portion of it to help me out because I've got enough to do with getting out, trying to generate revenues. Had a meeting with, Senator Klobuchar's office the other day. It was very beneficial. They were talking to me about grants and so on and so forth, and I kind of stopped him after a while, and I said, you know, I really appreciate what you're suggesting here with the grants, and thanks for your help on that. But this operation warrants a hard, budgetary consideration, a hard line budget. And I said, alone with, the avian care and what we do and all the services we provide, I said, this is not a flip on the light, turn off the light situation. We have, to monitor our birds 24/7, the ambassadors. Matter of fact, one of our guys had to go down there the other day because, Latch wrapped himself in his tether. So, you know, we've got somebody on site and, they got right there and took care of him. So the argument I'm making with, you know, my contacts with state and federal government is, no, this needs to be a budgeted, program here for the Eagle Center. And it will be, I guarantee it, one way or another, because, you know, it's, a person's gotta be very direct, with them, respectful but direct, and, that's what I'm being. Why this wasn't in place up to this point, I'm not certain, but it's gonna make a move in the right direction. That still leaves us, say, upwards of $1 million in cash flow that I need to get to balance the budget. So, I mean, it's not like it's a free ride or anything, it still requires a lot of work. So, that's kind of what's going on there. Attendance, for the last 3 years, we've consistently welcomed 50,000. I know I've sent some numbers to you guys. I'll continue to give you some updated numbers as we go. I want to be very transparent with you. I'm going to skip over the experiences programs exhibit. It just talks about everything that we do and we're available to do for people that want that. Economic support, working to bring many groups, like this last weekend on Friday, we had, I think it was 7 tour buses, from Viking and American combined. I was really pleased to see that they were walking downtown and they were going into the stores. I was standing out there and they were asking me, where could I go get this? Where could I go get that? So I'm really excited about that. There was some good foot traffic and they were there for a longer period of time than normal. So that was nice. It's all about the well-being of the community. So that's kind of what's going on. Then we had a lot of regional foot traffic too. I mean, we pinpointed a lot of people from across that came up, so that was encouraging. Moving on, it's for the sake of time. I started a new program, it's called Together Weekly. And I did that through VDAR with Scott Lean. And the entire purpose on that, one thing I heard when I came to town was there was not enough communication over events that were going on and so on and so forth. So I went ahead and put together this thing that goes out weekly, monthly, and it goes to every business. So the restaurants know of potential hits, retail shops know of potential hits. And then, of course, he has an accompanying document which goes to the residents of the town. So I think we've figured out a way to canvas having great communication with everybody in the town. And that was one thing we sponsor, we do it, and I'm doing it to kind of create a unity type of situation here in town. And a lot of people that I've talked to about it are very excited about it. Not to say we don't need to do some refinement on it, of course we do. You know, it's never quite right on the first pass. Working with Wabasha Main Street to bring several exciting programs to the amphitheater over the summer as part of the Big Joe series. Riverboat Days coming up. We've got, apparently Annette is in conversation with you about a boat that would dock on Thursday night for, we would have, riverboat cruise at 10 a.m. and 2 on Friday and 10 a.m. and 2 on Saturday. Apparently that's been done in the past. I'm not familiar with it. So I know the team is following through with that. Taste of Wabasha, we're getting up for that. We're starting to put together all of our, well, we've got our plans and actions well at hand. We're just pushing to silent auctions, get all the stuff pulled together for that, and the participating restaurants and everything. Shifting over to kind of the subject of the day, the expansion. We have a signed agreement with LHB, the architect, so they're all set. I found out tonight, I didn't have a chance, Caroline, to share with you. Apparently we don't have to do the geotech survey and the other because it was completed in phase 1. Now I need a little more clarity on that from Jennifer with LHB, but she did send me an email stating that. So we're in the design phase now, schematic design, and that's what's going on. J.E. Dunn declined to do this phase of the project. So, which is fine. We'll do a design to build and put it out and get a general contractor. That's it. I mean, I'm not concerned about it. There's a lot of good generals around here. So I think the scope of the project, it's manageable, you know. There's some stuff that obviously Annette and I are working with Caroline to look like the state wanted some status updates. They sent some documents. We're working on that. I mentioned we moved the schematic design phase. We did include in here, again, those kind of snapshots originally of what it is we're doing. And on page 3, you know, you've got building 2 highlighted and the grounds behind it. There's going to be adjustment to elevation and entrance on that. And then, of course, moving on to the next page, it clearly defines the mezzanine level on the 2nd floor, and it also gives you a feel for what the building looks like as far as layout. So it's sold. Its primary purpose is for a museum display, because the amount of things that Preston has garnered over the course of time, you know, it's hard to do justice to them all. And then third was 2nd floor. Basically, that's the mezzanine. The only thing that's not reflected on here is I asked that we put a hole through the wall into building 3 on the 2nd floor, because I didn't think it was prudent to go ahead and do that after the construction was finished. That's just quite a dust issue. And then lastly, basement level as it relates to the 2-floor elevator that's going in. So, you know, the projects take place during 2027 with the goal of completing it for the 2028 Soar of the Eagles Festival. So that's kind of an update. I've been keeping plenty busy with everything since I started, and the team has been doing a fantastic job. Strongly encouraging. I want to see strong community relations. I've made that abundantly clear to them. And, you know, like I said, it's a diamond in the rough, it's a treasure. And, you know, we need to showcase it and do it properly. So everybody's on board. I think it's a good vibe down there. I feel good about it. And customer feedback that I've been getting I had 600 different people walk in front of me the other day, and the feedback was very positive, so I feel good about that. Of course, services is what I come from, so that's it. Any questions?
You said, 2027,
Yeah.
approximately what time,
It's supposed to be completed, later in the year. I think that's what the schedule is on the back page here. Let me take a look.
March,
Yeah, it's, looks like, completion by March. Yeah,
in the start time?
hang on.
Looks like
Yeah,
building
I can't-
construction is
Yeah, I can't see.
May, March.
March, yeah, it's a March to March, 27, 28. Yep, so that's it. I just don't think this project is daunting. We're basically just dealing with that one building. There's some tuck pointing stuff that I'm addressing with the local craftsman that's gonna take care of that. He does work on, obviously, quite a few of the buildings in town. So, I think this is gonna be pretty simple. It's gonna be managed very tightly. I do not want to have change orders and all sorts of things going on. So it's gonna be a very tight managed project, and I think it'll turn out nicely. I will put some having time into, making sure that the drawings are tight, they're good, electrical needs, all that kind of stuff, so that we're not having to recreate the wheel halfway through it, so. I think everything will go fine. I appreciate Caroline's help with, all the paperwork and back and forth with the state. Not my area of expertise. While I'm learning, it's not my area, and, so little by little.
Yeah, so I just wanted to highlight that in the consent agenda is a very long grant agreement, because we're the fiscal agent for the $4 million that they're gonna get for their expansion. And it reads like the first phase, and the big thing is that for the life of the improvements, it has to continue to be the Eagle Center and display the Preston and Cook collection, and we've recorded deed restrictions on all their buildings to that effect, and so that's why we ask to see their financials every year.
Yep.
Is theoretically, if something were to occur, then the city is responsible for carrying out this program that we've committed to. So, that's why we'll probably have Michael come every year to just ensure that they continue to be in good financial health, and I think we're excited. This, I think, completes their commitment and spends down the full allocation that they got from the state of Minnesota.
And I'm more than willing to come anytime, not just annually. I'm willing to come anytime you guys want to, if you have some specific questions about how we're doing. I really do think we've got a good cadence going right now with the fundraising and everything, and the grant work and everything, so I feel like, we're headed in the right direction. Everybody's pulling the oars the correct way, so I think we're gonna be very successful. You know, everybody I'm talking to thinks it's a fabulous opportunity to support. So that's a consensus. I thank you for the time to speak today, appreciate it.
You've had two wonderful events in the last month and a half. The
Yes, we have.
Stamp celebration, as well as the celebration for the volleyball that you hosted, as well as kick off the Big Joe Presenter Series.
Yeah,
Obviously, when you guys kick off the program, certainly with the stamps, because you've integrated into that,
yeah.
it's your audience, but did you get it, can you sense, do you get residual audience, turnstile, activity when there is an event like the?
Yeah, I think so. I think, again, I say this in a positive light to you. I think it's important that we continue to enhance relationships with the community members. I think you would see a lot more residual type of attendance if that were the case. So guess what? Everybody that walks down the street, they're said hi to, and how are you today, and introductions, the whole 9 yards. I mean, this is a great town, and I've always felt that way, and I just think, we've got some opportunities there to continue to improve.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you know from Annette, that Big Joe Presenter Series is it's the experimental stage that we dreamed of when we conceptualized this in
Yeah.
this expansion, so it's really exciting to have so many events.
Yeah.
I hope members of council will go just to experience the space and to be, be aware of what presenters have that they have to deal with, including truck traffic and sometimes motorcycle
Yeah.
traffic, so it's good to, be in that space for those kind of presentations. The Eagle Center's learned how to do it really well,
Yeah.
everybody else is gonna have to learn how to do it.
Well, I mean, again, we wanna partner with everybody, like we kept the Eagle Center open for restrooms. I understand the turnout for the Shakespeare
Great.
Festival was pretty strong.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what it's all about. You've gotta be a team, you've gotta work together. And, I really truly believe we're gonna get there. Yeah, so that's it.
Any other questions for Michael?
Sorry about the long-winded,
No, it's good to have the update, thank you for being
I
here.
just figured it.
Ton
might as well
has
take the
transpired
time.
since you started and
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
anytime, thank you.
Thank
We could entertain public comment at this time, we have anybody online this time? We have a couple people, we have a few people online, I'll probably go to the room first, anyone who in the chamber council would like to talk to council, if you could just come up so that you're able to be heard for those online as well as members. Welcome.
Name and address too.
Oh, yes, sorry, please get your name and address, it's hard to really know everyone.
Jim, also known as Arlo Perry, address 227 Coffee Mill Drive, Wabasha, Minnesota. I'm here as the president of Coffee Mill Golf Course, and just wanted to address this proposed assessment. I was here, I think it was last fall when this was being discussed. Wanted to just real quickly recap the golf course. Many of you know this, but almost 8 years ago, the golf course was saved from being shut down. It was gonna be planted in trees or otherwise developed. Initially, there was a small group of Wabasha residents who got involved to save it. We're now up to 42 shareholders and growing. Nobody gets a discount, dividend, or otherwise ever intends on seeing any money back. We're doing this for the community. We look at it as a community asset, and we hope to keep it alive for generations to come. We rely heavily on volunteers, and every year we struggle to keep pace with improvements that are required, replacement of equipment. And it would be nice to see the city support an asset like this instead of burdening us with funds we need to keep the place alive. I realize the initial assessment was at $37,000. And last fall, when I was here, there was some discussion about taking another look at it. I may be wrong, but my memory is there was talk about $10,000. Now I got the notice that it's being proposed at $17,000. And I'm referring to the message I've referred or seen about this assessment as the policy in which assessments are made. And I just want to point out a couple things. I mean, Minnesota statute 429.051 states that the cost of any improvement or any part thereof may be assessed upon property benefited by the improvement based on the benefits received, whether or not the property abuts on the improvement. And based on the benefit received is one of the issues. We don't believe the golf course increases in value of almost $18,000 as a result of Skyline being improved. In fact, we think an argument could be made that it doesn't increase the value of the golf course at all. It improves the homeowners around it. And we've had some of those, they're not golfers, but they bought a share just to keep it a golf course because they know what value, it keeps the value of their property up. The League of Minnesota Cities and other case law clearly states a benefit rule must be applied. An assessment cannot exceed the increase in market value of the property as a result of the improvement. Next issue is whether or not a property abuts the improvement. It can be assessed. And golf course, we use the first 100 yards. I don't know if it's technically Skyline Drive when you turn off of Highway 60 before it turns to the right. If that's the case, we use the first 100 yards to get back to the maintenance shop. That's the only time we use Skyline Drive. There are 12 homeowners that use that same 100 yards beyond their maintenance shed out that direction that live, and they're not being assessed. If you follow Skyline Drive down to the end where there's a turnaround, I believe there are 8 homeowners beyond that point at which it becomes a private road. They use Skyline Drive in its entirety every day, in and out, they're not being assessed. So if the statute allows for assessing non-abutting properties, and a message I received says we have to do this in order to pay for the improvement, I get it, but there's a way to spread that cost by those who truly use it and benefit from it. At that, I'd just like to say I respectfully ask that the city reconsider this assessment for the golf course. And we've talked to an attorney, we've talked to an appraiser. We don't want to go down the road of having to file in district court. And, you know, again, I'd say talk about a common sense way of applying an assessment to the golf course when we don't use the road. I mean, we don't use it. And, but I think when I was here last fall, I said, we would definitely want to be neighborly. And at the time, I said,
Just hand him here, I'll pass him out.
we would be happy to pay double what any one homeowner on Skyline Drive is being assessed. If somebody owns 2 lots, 3 lots, assess us that. I mean, they need it, we don't need the improvement. So that, but I would just ask that we look at some alternative way instead of going down the path of causing us to spend more money arguing this point, and you guys doing the same. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Of course, you're welcome to stay, this is on the agenda, but if you need to go, we understand.
No,
You'll stay, great, okay, super, we'll respond, certainly staff and council will respond then. Anyone else with public comment, who'd like to share a couple minutes? Share your name and address, even though we know one another.
I am KK 224 3rd Street East. I'm here representing myself and then also representing Rotary, really begging you to improve the 3 musical instruments that would be put into the park. Mandy will talk about all the specifics of it, but I want to tell you what the why is, what I fully believe. Music is a highly effective non-pharma tool. So think about the first time that you had a date and the music that you guys may have planned for that. Think about the music that you introduce to your kids. But our vision is to imagine a grandmother or a father beside his granddaughter or his daughter. They tap out "You Are My Sunshine" on these instruments. And for a moment, memories return and smiles, and they think of Wabasha. Families connect. That's it. It's something that will be in your heart. It's an easy thing. There's no cost to you, but it's something that we can all brag about.
Thank you, Kate, I bet you raised your hand about as quickly as Kate did. Mandy, you want to follow up? Yeah.
My name is Mandy Edelbach, and I live at 23397 Highway 60 in Wabasha, and I am here representing the Wabasha Rotary Club. Thank you, Kay. That was a nice surprise, and a great lead into what I'm doing. So as you may or may not know, the Wabasha Rotary Club is celebrating their 75-year anniversary this year, and we're looking to do a project that gives back to our community and even beyond the communities. Rotary has 7 key areas of focus. This project, this music park that we would like to ask for permission to place at Beach Park hits 6 out of those 7 areas. And like Kay mentioned, it's not meant just for young kids, it's meant for all ages, intergenerational, all the way through life. So I see Caroline has it up on the screen and was shared out ahead of time. So talks about it. I've had the opportunity to get the approval from the Rotary Board, the Rotary membership. I've had an opportunity to meet with the Parks Committee twice at their meetings and received their approval. I've had the opportunity to work directly with Tony and his crew to kind of talk through and look at plans. So just, it is on the consent agenda, number 3 for the actual final approval, hopefully. And then we'll look to move forward. So not asking for any funding or help. We've already had pledges for a little over 50% of the project. And as you look through this project could become a multi-phase project this year in 2026. We're just looking to purchase and install 3 musical instruments down at Beach Park. We worked with the Parks Department to identify a specific area, to keep it in the mulch area, to keep that natural feel. And we've talked about the noise level that comes with it, knowing that there's campers there and people kind of coming in and out of that area. So I did provide the decibel levels at different distances for the 3 items. It is never louder than a lawnmower or it's kind of between the levels of a lawnmower and a car horn, just to kind of give you an idea of that. And we are willing and happy to, looking forward to working with the parks crew for the installation and all pieces needed for it. We've worked with Caroline to put together an MOU, taking ownership on this project over a 10-year period of time. And so just kind of looking and wrapping up, looking for your supports in improving this project and helping our Rotary Club select a project that is not only meant just for our club's benefit, but the community and even those that come to our community. So.
I have a question.
Yes.
You said that it was gonna be in the mulch area. That's not acceptable. Not for wheelchairs. So, you should look at that.
Yeah, so it doesn't go all the way, it goes right along the edge of the cement. So it is still meant to be accessible for all people. And there's different heights levels, it comes with very good specs and information. So thank you for mentioning that, because that is definitely one of the topics when we selected this
That
project.
was discussed.
Yes, wanted to make sure that it's accessible for all abilities of all ages.
So they don't need to get around the back.
No.
Okay.
There is a little, I forget the actual name of it, there's a little mount piece that goes on the top, you can scan it with your phone, and it'll pull up how to play the instrument, how to keep a beat, there's little videos, it teaches you, if you don't know the notes, one of the instruments is color, so you can learn to play by color or by notes. There's a songbook that comes with it, so it's really meant to be very interactive and user-friendly, even for those who don't know music.
So how are they powered?
There's no power, it's just a hand, there,
You said there's something you scan and pull up.
oh, on your telephone, on your phone, your cell phone,
Yeah.
a QR code, yeah. You don't have to use it, but if you, it's an option,
An actual percussionist.
yeah,
It's not an app that you need to use.
correct, you can use it without using that, yeah. And also have had communication with the St. Felix music teacher, just in the selection of the instruments to make sure they complement each other well and could potentially be used. Our hope is maybe to pair with the library to do a summer program down there, or we could pair with the music teacher to make it a community event where they could give instructions and teach music in that space that's free and open for all to use.
Thank you very much. Again, you're welcome to stay through the consent agenda if you want to see what happens. But we got a little celebration of Bev here first, but.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mandy and Kate. Any other public comments? John, thank you.
Hello, I'm John Groot. I live at 112 Lawrence Boulevard in Wabasha. And I'm here in regards to the alignment of Lawrence Boulevard and Pembroke, which I actually thought this was kind of put to bed over a year ago, because I've done it 2 meetings before. And if I remember correctly, what's the consulting engineer Bolton and May. And I asked the question at the time, why was the alignment done to begin with? And he said, well, it was all about safety. You know, getting all the traffic going, really coming up Lawrence one way, closing off the access to Lawrence, which it was. And before that, the original traffic, it was a long way all the way. And I know that restricted area, now you're talking about if we're gonna have traffic going down Pembroke onto Lawrence, which has been suggested, there's a $32,000 quote to tear that out and widen that, is that correct?
That's one of the estimates, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And what I'm having a hard time with is, if an engineer tells you that this is done for safety reasons, and you're gonna tear that out, and and realign it differently, I think it's kind of like looking for a problem. But right now isn't there. So I've lived there 2.5 years, and I've watched traffic flow. The way it works right now, it works best for the Eagle Center right now. The buses come down Lawrence, turn up, all the passengers are safely unloaded on the side of the Eagle Center. And that should be, in my opinion, the main objective, what works best for the Eagle Center, because when they have, like I said, 7 buses over the weekend, that whole area down to the fountain and even on to Lawrence is kind of like a plaza. There's people everywhere, you know, and they're walking around, they're enjoying it, the view. And I just don't see bringing traffic down Pembroke and having them, you know, turn on to Lawrence, that's beneficial. I will say where I live, right behind the post office, even now with the do not enter sign covered, I can go that way. On a weekend or a Friday, or when it's real busy, I still go over to Bailey and come back, because I'm looking at all the people as I come down. And in fact, I always back up my driveway, because when I pull out, I'm always looking at the people. And that's much safer than coming down, driving through people, they're walking away from you, so they have their backs to you. Coming down Lawrence that way, you're looking at them, they're looking at you. So it's just much safer. So like I said, I thought this was put to bed, maybe a year ago or so. And I'm not sure what the driver is to change it. I don't think we really should spend $32,000 to widen the street, which is only gonna increase traffic. You know, probably both ways. If the buses are still gonna be allowed to, and that I wasn't clear on that, so if that becomes a one-way, where do the buses go? Can they still?
For further discussion, you might wanna stay, or if you
Okay.
don't, we'll get to that, we'll for sure get to that, I think we'll.
But I will say, since the first time I was here, I've been a little more observant of just seeing flow, people, and I think it's working pretty well the way it is, to be honest with you. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you for your thoughts and your observations. Any other public comment? Any public comment online? If you have never done this before, you'll have a little mute button on the lower left of your screen that allows you to unmute your microphone. And then you can share a couple minutes with council. Just please state your name and residence for the record. It's okay if you're just here to listen to. All right, I'm not hearing any further public comment online. We have a very nice celebration to enjoy, which is Wabasha celebrating 20 years. And she gets to have a party because she's also retiring, but we knew that not everybody could be there, so we wanted to celebrate her at council meetings like we do other milestones. You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Well, Caroline does excellent research on our employees, even though she's not been here for the full 20 years that you worked here. And she told me all the things that she learned about you, but she said what she didn't know is that you had been on the Blandon and the Blandon Leadership Retreat, which of course is how I got to know you. So I'm sorry I didn't share that with you. It was wonderful. I think it really did transform those of us there. Tony was there, I was there, Wendy was there, Dan Metcalf, Dylan was there, with a lot of city employees, which frankly, and I've said this many times, it's really kind of the reason that I decided I could be a mayor is because I liked working with you guys so much. I knew that it would be fun, at least staff side of things would be really fun. So that was a wonderful way to get to know Bev. I certainly knew her face. She's a quiet, warm presence in the library. I never really just like had the option to shake your hand, but we got into a small group together and she leaned over to me and she said, I love Thea. This was my 6-year-old at the time. And to hear your community librarian say, I love your child, is a really special thing because that's what libraries are for communities, and so it was a really good way to get to know you. I'm so glad we had that opportunity. I wish we could do it over and over and over again and come up with all kinds of new exciting projects, because I think we were in a small, even smaller group. I can't remember if we were given ideas that we had to like think about how we would provide community leadership on, or if you came up with an idea that the library would have some type of a community art project. I think it was given to us, because I remember thinking like, oh, this is kind of a fun one. And now how many collaborations have occurred since that in 2016. I mean, the whole library's transformed, the children's, expansion, all the murals, all the work that's been done on the exterior, the interior, so much great leadership and partnership because of you.
Thank you.
Well, you'll always be a landing buddy to me.
And I'll just share, I'm newer in the community, and Bev has always just been a welcoming embrace and has got to know my kids and helped us pick out library books, so we have a personal friendship, and then just always encouraging me as I've gone along this journey, so that is important. And I did get a chance to talk to her, when she applied to be library director, one of her priorities was to create connections in the community. And we put together a little press release that I hope you'll read, just about all the outreach she's done, added new programming, started connecting with the Wabasha Kellogg School District for the first time and engaging students. So we'll miss you, Bev, and I asked her, what are you gonna miss? And I thought, oh, it's doing all these great projects, but the part she's gonna miss is just reading with the kids and spending time playing with the children at the library. And I love that, and that's what it's all about, is connecting with our residents and our library patrons. So congratulations. Everyone is invited to her party on July 29th. It's one day before her last day. I don't know, you have to come in the next day, but it's gonna be just, we'll have some appetizers and snacks and cake, at 2 o'clock, and we'll do a little presentation, so I hope you can make it. Congratulations on that.
Thanks, everybody. I just want to thank the council for their support throughout the years. It has been really wonderful, serving the community and the library. The county also helped, but most of our funds came through the city. So I just want to thank you for your support. And I hope it continues with the new director, Liesl Knox, who will be starting full time in a couple of weeks. So
sounds good. We can't
excited
wait.
for Liesl.
And I bet you if you really miss those kids, they'll invite you back to read for story time.
Yeah, well, I'll be back. I'm gonna volunteer once I get past a certain amount of time.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you personally for all the changes you brought to the library.
Thank you, Dan.
From the time you started in the new edition, the children's edition, and just the programs that you're brought along mine with you.
Thank you.
It's just wonderful. And the pies.
Then the pies, yes. He likes my rhubarb pie. Thank you.
Thank you, Bev. And we always have council meetings on beautiful nights, so we don't want you to sit here and waste a summer evening when you kind of know everything else that's on the agenda. On our consent agenda, we have our special city council meeting minutes from July 18th. We have the resolution of the Towards Zero Deaths grant, Officer Jacobs. The approval for the 3 municipal instruments that were discussed in the public comment, the school resource officer contract, the reception center letter of agreement, and which is with Wabasha County, our regular June 2nd regular city council minutes, our July warrants, and this grant agreement for phase 2 of the National Eagle Center and Wabasha Revitalization Project. I'm noticing a few typos. This is actually written by deed, so we're gonna work with the Eagle Center to make sure those are corrected, but the substance of it is on the consent agenda. Like they spelled Caroline's name wrong. It's not like there's nothing of significance that I think we should re-bring it to council. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Thank you, Tim. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second by John. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Could you go back to, I just have some changes and additions to the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. Yes, and any further reports you want to make? Anybody have changes or additions to the agenda? It sounds like Caroline does. Anyone else?
Yeah, my change is at the bottom of the current agenda. This is just very minor. We have to, and I spelled it wrong, a comprehensive plan amendment to add the wellhead protection plan. It's just very minor. Apologies for the typos, but the new map is there. And then the other item that I was reminded of from Michael is Annette requested that we allow overnight parking the night of July 23rd and the night of July 24th. And we've just always brought those to council, those overnight parking requests, so that's,
So that'll be general business 8.
yeah.
Okay. And I didn't make a presentation either. There's been so much good going on. I just don't want to take up too much time. We had good presentations, but thank you so much to the volunteers, donors, the squeezing that amazing fireworks spectacular in between that little bit of storms and then the really big storms was really wonderful. Jeff accompanied me on Bald Eagle Day. We had our whole federal delegation here represented, or actually Jean Poppy on behalf of Tina Smith and Chuck Ackman on behalf of Amy Wabasha, and Angie Craig was here herself, and she really wanted to spend a couple hours talking to our local businesses, and Jeff joined me for the whole thing. We really appreciate that. I appreciated that. And yeah, I didn't want to say much more than that, but other committee reports, utilities,
Just paying bills for nothing.
or
Lots of stuff, but I'll keep it short. We had at our meeting this month, we approved the industrial district for our Booker's terminal. People have driven by out there. You'll see construction is already beginning. So that is happening as we speak. Special meeting this morning with respect to an island haul out. That's part of our agreement that we have with the Army Corps. We're actually gonna be able to move some product off of the islands for them this year, at the end of the year. So, yeah.
anything from the ambulance, Ryan?
The year we had 100 calls, which is up one from last year. We are up a total of 18 calls over this time last year. It was 503. And we are at 116 transfers for the year, which is up 29 over this time last year. And we're currently sitting at 53.5% of our total transfers, not counting this month. So far this month, we're at 77%. We're doing interviews, finishing them up tomorrow. We have a total of 9 applicants for open position, which is most I've ever seen. So we have a lot of really good candidates, so I'm looking forward to having a discussion after the 2 tomorrow and figuring out where we're gonna go from there. But other than that, we have a big weekend coming up next weekend with County Fair, and then even though it's not our service area, Spring Creek has their big nationals down there, and with that, then Meadow Valley also have their Meadow Valley days, and so naturally every year we end up down at one of those places for a call to help them out, because it's just a lot of people in a very small location. So we are staffing up 2 trucks for next Saturday, which is the big day. But we're also doing standbys at the county fair for the 2 autocrosses and then the full riding. So next week will be a big week for us.
There was a really nice exchange, it was initiated by the hospital, specifically the ED staff. They were very, very pleased with the collaboration with our ambulance service. I don't know, I think it was just me and you and Ryan copied on it. Anyway, big praise from our ED staff about, sounded like you had a very tough couple of arrests or something kind of on top of each other, and how well everybody was able to work together. So there was a nice exchange back and forth initiated by our hospital staff. Tony, anything you want to say besides what's on the agenda?
Thanks, Caroline, almost the time to come up.
Almost used to it, I knew you were coming up.
Street Commission met today, yeah, Lawrence Boulevard, we talked about that. We knew we were gonna have Brian here tonight to explain some details, for some good questions, but the Street Commission made a motion to use a different type of sign, and possibly make it a 2-way, but there's things that we need to talk about with the pump out and parking and everything else. That'll be later. Parking on 2nd Street East, there is a parking sign. Yeah, we're gonna change that to a 15-minute from 8:30 to 5 p.m. so people can use it at night. That was it for streets. Parks was kind of long. I met on June 17th. We had a memorial bench donation request for Heritage Park. Proposed rotary enhancement to Beach Park, which would be Musical instruments, that was approved, sent to council. Veterans Park, the Legion and the VFW would like to place pavers on, Veterans Park in a certain way behind the statues and sell those to recoup money to keep improving the park, so we had some details to work on there, like who's gonna take care of the pavers, who's gonna set them, you know, all that stuff, and they got that covered, so that was approved. Discussion of Isaac Walton League, might be a future donation coming in there that, we wanted to go through our park plan and look at different things and items that have been talked in the past, and fish cleaning house, sidewalk, fix up the bathroom, so that was discussed, I think you're talking to the Isaac Walton League about that. Food share mural, so we need to find a spot for that, was on, the old Glander building, and it was an idea proposed down at the community gardens on Bridge Avenue, but it would kind of block out, you know, somebody's view, people that live there, so we just went back to the drawing board and looking for other ideas on that. That's it.
Thanks, Tony. Planning.
We just talked about updating the comp plan with the wellhead protection plan, so that was all that stuff.
All right, and Caroline said she thinks we have her report. So I'm eager to get Jim up here so we can work with us. So we'll move on to our general business one. We have Jim Mathias here, willing to serve as council member for the 3rd Ward, replacing Gene Jensen, who's happy to move to Arizona. Is gonna be a real stinker and keep sending us pictures of the hot tub in the back of your property. So we'll miss Gene, but we're very excited to have Jim here, and we have, we just make a regular motion, right?
Gene just made it.
You made it, thank you, first.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brian, pretty excited. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Thank you for being here, Jim. You too have the spot next to Gene, we'd love to have you up here.
Needs to be torn in there.
Yes, and when does that happen with Wendy?
Schedule, I think,
Yeah.
so.
We'll have Wendy reach out. Now that we've appointed you, she'll officially have you say the oath and all that. I can take a picture. Streets, have you been on other commissions in the city of Wabasha? Okay, well, it's a really good one to get acquainted with lots of things that are happening already in the city. I'm sure you'll fit right in.
Thank you.
Now we have it before us to approve the draft 2025 street and utility improvement project assessments, which was brought to the public comment. We've got Brian here. And a nice explanation of how we're trying to apply our policy for these assessments.
Mayor, if you're willing to shift the order of the agenda a little bit, give me a few more minutes.
You bet.
I'd like to be able to run a couple numbers
Okay.
based on a public
That sounds just
testimony
fine.
that was given earlier. Give me
You
a few
bet.
minutes to do that. I
No
think
problem.
Some better information when it comes up.
Okay,
That's
great.
Could you go ahead and, I think you're gonna add on the properties, correct? You're not gonna run them?
No, I'm running some numbers on the golf course assessment
Okay.
changes.
We can address the adding on property suggestion.
Want to discuss
Right.
it?
I was just talking to.
We'll give you as much time as you need, there's plenty to discuss. Like this one, the Lawrence Boulevard traffic flow and signage, maybe we'll skip that one too, so Brian can think straight for a minute.
That's fine.
Let's do the peddler ordinance, that's pretty straightforward, we've got staff who provide us with some items to consider.
I think Christie was potentially doing late, but I can cover it. So basically you direct, staff, specifically Jessica, has made me aware that the peddler license process needs improvement. And so I think one of the big improvements is we're no longer gonna take each and every one to council. Staff will be able to approve a peddler license if they meet all the requirements. We'll do a second read and a public notice in the paper, and so I just like to have the second read be ready to go and let staff do any research. So the main questions that I had for this group was, we're looking at fees of $100 for 1 month, $225 per year, in addition to the $25 per background check. Now, I've learned we cannot get around the background check and not get around that has to be notarized, that somebody gets the background check. I wanted to go totally virtual on these applications and you could email it, but the notary requirement, which sounds like it's pretty consistent across cities, it wasn't something we could get around, and there's not a good way to do online notary. So we're gonna allow for 10 days for processing, but they no longer have to wait an entire month to get on the next council agenda. And I think the main thing that, it's gonna be just one calendar year versus 1 year from issuance where staff are tracking when it is expired. But the main thing we wanted to get, feedback from is just what the hours you want to allow for in here. We
Like
just,
8 to 8, Monday through Saturday.
yeah, so we don't have to, this was just, there's not consistency, but currently, people can do it 7 days a week. And the old language was 7 to 9, so longer hours. Do we wanna be more restrictive when someone's coming, or do we wanna leave it more expansive, 7 to 9, Monday through Sun, all week long, or do you wanna limit it and take out Sundays?
I
This-
prefer they not even do Saturday. Let our residents have some people finding out weekend.
I had exactly 2 peddlers, I had exactly 1 peddler, it's the same young man who tried to sell me like an encyclopedia set. And it was always midday, because I think they know when people are gonna answer the door, so I think it's kind of arbitrary whether we limit them to 7 or 8, because I don't think they're gonna knock on doors at 7 in the morning, just because the response probably is not so good. So I'm okay with 8 to 8.
Okay.
And it sounds like Dean's interested, maybe just Monday through Friday, any other thoughts?
I'm fine with Monday through
Monday
Friday.
through Friday, 8 to 8.
You can put a sign on your door
Yeah, no solicitation.
that says no solicitation if you want to. So if you're that passionate about it, there's a way.
Okay, so 8 to 8, but no weekends, okay? That was the main thing, and then just like, does that fee look okay? And I had, Christy put together a comparison, and it runs the gamut, so ours isn't out of line, it's more expensive than some places and less expensive than others. I think my only concerns, ours is similar to Hastings, is you don't want it to be too expensive that no one bothers to get it and then it's out there illegally. I'm sure now everyone knows it is peddler license requirement, and we're basically operate on a complaint basis, but, so if about $100 for 1 month and 225 per year seemed comparable to.
It's fine.
Great, so we'll see that in the future.
All right, so yeah, no action on that.
Okay.
Okay, we still, I think we're supposed to do a public hearing. Okay, so we'll not bring it back if it doesn't require a second read.
Okay.
Well, they didn't approve anything today, so I can put it on consent though,
There you go.
so if everyone's
We'll be
good,
familiar.
yeah.
All right, then we had our emergency management director subcommittee make a recommendation that this position be posted internally to all employees. Thanks to Tim and Brian for that. Thank you guys. A nice overview of the position, the essential functions. Candidate should have 2 years of experience, I think, working with the city of Wabasha. So we need to approve posting this to current employees, full-time, part-time, paid on call, fire and EMS, but not seasonal.
And I think the one point of debate was the pay, and so we looked at a few cities and figured that they could get an annual increase, because anyone starting would be brand new in the position, and then we would do an annual increase like other positions, but this is gonna be a little bit tricky because they need the buy-in of their department director. Not every position with the city could be doing this as their job, but I'm planning on letting department heads know tomorrow, and hopefully everyone coordinates with their supervisor as they apply for this, but it's worked well in public works, it's been in police before, it's been in ambulance, and as was stated by the committee, it could be here at City Hall. Like Tyler could be the next emergency management director, he just would need to coordinate with me, so.
I can see the stipend, we agreed on 8,000 to start, correct?
I
Was that
took
the
down
number?
7, but if you could.
7, no, it was 7.
Okay, so that's what I put.
Yeah, I think we have some flexibility there. I think it was 6 to 10. We thought.
No, we picked a number,
We-
though.
Yeah.
7, the lower one.
Alright. Alright, so I think, yeah, we picked 7,000 per year stipend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good, great.
And then I just noted, we're halfway through the year, so it'll be prorated for the rest of the year. And if we get no applicants, we can take it back to this committee for someone that might get assigned this role, so.
All right, so we entertain a motion to approve posting to current employees.
I'll move.
Thank you, Brian.
Second.
Second, Jeff, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Can we get to the item on the floor? Brian, are we able to talk about the one-way or?
Yeah.
Okay, Brian knows this issue inside out. Okay, so everybody else probably does too. So we have the background, it was outlined very well on the agenda. There was a February 4th Street Commission meeting where the change of traffic flow signage had been several times reversed and decided to go back to the original flow. When that was brought to the attention of the engineer, we were reminded that that was designed. Initially, the Eagle Center did not object to that, and different leadership at that time, so there wasn't any view that it was gonna be a problem until we were reminded that, really, to be fair, the context there is that safety consideration was not just for the Eagle Center, it was for the entire riverfront expansion, including the amphitheater, the public dockage, and people's safe access into those spaces, including Big Joe as a plaza, not an alley. So that was really the spirit of that whole, all of that engineering, was that Big Joe Alley is not meant, it works and it still functions as an alley, but it was really meant to be a publicly enhanced space for public utilization. And all the improvements that have been made support that. So just when you're talking to community members about this, that it wasn't, the Eagle Center requested that this traffic be directed this way, was that when the whole concept for the riverfront revitalization occurred, this is the way the engineering led to a conclusion about how traffic should be managed. So then we had a meeting where we, I think, had a consensus and unanimously voted that we would not reverse it to the traditional, I don't want to say it, historic pattern of one way.
Here, Dean put some nice visuals. This
Yeah,
is the
thank you, that's Dean's
historic-
concept, yeah.
This is the historic pattern, the old pattern, and then Dean, on here, this is the current pattern, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, because I think we got confused not seeing that, so.
So now it sounds like streets maybe had a little bit further conversation. Tony, is there anything you'd like to add from the streets meeting that we should?
I don't think it, Jim, I think you kind of know what.
Well, we, at the commission, we kind of agreed there wasn't money to take the bump outs out, period, where we would find that money. But one of the options we came up with was when that one-way sign, or do not have, one-way, change that to a slow down and yield oncoming traffic. And leave the bump outs there. Okay, they would serve just like the other bump outs throughout Main Street and Pembroke.
Thank you for that illustration.
No, what I proposed in my letter was to, leave the pump out there also, but have the traffic come from Pembroke north and then go to Lawrence Boulevard. So when you come down Pembroke, you see the beautiful Eagle Center, you see that beautiful fountain, and it was always, in my opinion, designed for traffic to go that way than to Lawrence.
And this would intend is two-way traffic.
Yeah, and then we could also accommodate the Eagle Center's buses by allowing them to still use daily, but the Eagle Center would just have to put up cones out there and tell the buses park in them. Lift up barricades again, buses can park and traffic can go.
Jean, for clarity, are you proposing we go back to, it is the original way, except when buses are there?
I'm proposing, we go north on Pembroke with pedestrian traffic and east on Lawrence. But when their buses are coming, they're all usually scheduled. Eagle Center can put out cones or whatever they want on the back strands and post office, and then have the buses do the daily Lawrence Boulevard and park. That they do not. And then you can have the traffic, once they park, you can have the traffic pull that way again.
Well, I'm not hearing anybody jump up and down about removing the bump outs, which is good, because I don't think that we're allowed to. That was an improvement made with the state bonding dollars, so we have to get state permission to change that, let alone demolish it or, eliminate it, I guess. So we didn't do a whole lot of work on that, but that doesn't sound promising to me. You have to make an improvement equivalent, adds equivalent value to the property, which, I think is just a.
I've been approached by several citizens and they basically say they want their road back. I think we can get the road back the way it was down Pembroke, north to the fountain, east on Warren. And yet we can work with people that are the other way around. But
I think Jim's sign idea is the one that's a great compromise between that, because
You get two-way traffic.
you're gonna have two-way traffic, you have to have two-way traffic on that little section between Bailey and the Eagle Center. And I think Brian will probably tell us we need to get, that has to be no parking, of course, roadside parking on that street. But that's the easiest solution, is put that sign up, and that'll accomplish most of what you got, and it costs the city nothing except the
that's what I'm
sign.
saying. I'm not saying we have to go by what I suggested. I just wanna make sure that our residents can go down Pembroke Avenue and see the fountains and at east. And I talked to John Bouquet, who put that fountain in and paid for most of that area. And he's has always planned on that being the way it is. And somewhere we got off and reversed that.
Well, it was designed
For pedestrian.
as a pedestrian plaza with the safety kind of being first with people that are in that area.
Yeah.
So that was why you go down Bailey and upriver on Lawrence and offload everybody on the curbside.
Right.
And then, which to me still makes the most sense, the idea of that yield sign kind of thing could be certainly a compromise, but, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Brian's working, so he doesn't have any thoughts. Okay. Were you able to see the streets commission suggestion of a yield pedestrian sign where the do not enter sign had been prior?
I did, the way I understood that was, that would be in conjunction with no parking on that section between Pembroke and Bailey.
That's what Brian was
Yeah.
understanding, or what Jeff
You don't have
thought.
to be too
was
right.
saying.
Yes,
I thought you'd gone over that before,
We-
the road isn't wide enough for parking.
correct, yep, so if you eliminated parking, it would make sense and be realistic to have two-way traffic on that section. Leaving the bump out in doesn't meet any kind of traffic standards, it's relatively low traffic there, it's low speed, so the risk is low, with a warning sign like that, but it's not, doesn't meet any kind of traffic standards, so. Yes,
Yeah, I think, what about when it's full of pedestrians and there's two ways on Pembroke?
well, if you take out the bump out in any fashion, that reduces the safety of that crossing, but again, relatively low traffic, it's low speed. I don't think anybody's going 30 miles an hour through there, but, the bump out shortens the crossing, improves pedestrian safety, taking that out reduces pedestrian safety, so it's a little bit of a trade-off.
And if a bus is parked there and someone's coming from Pembroke intending to take a right, and another car is coming from the other direction while the bus is parked, and maybe there's pedestrians crossing, it's,
The buses, I presume the buses would always be parked south of Big Joe Alley. So less of an issue, but yeah, it's just we're all drivers, you just imagine, it's a goofy to have two-way traffic and have to go around a bump out, it's just, on the flip side, it slows people down, it's weird, people are gonna be paying attention, so, but you're not gonna find it in traffic engineering, you'll say this is a good idea to do this.
Before the Eagle Center was there, we had a platform that was heavily utilized. I mean, there'd be 100 people down there on that platform in September, October, November. And the traffic was what I'm proposing, going south or north on Deborah, and we didn't have any problem with people being ditched or anything like that. We don't have near the numbers, down there now in that time of year, on the roadway. So I'm not concerned about that.
Your proposal being, we had it run this way for a while, right, and switched it back to, you could go towards the river on Pembroke, take a right, and then you went around the bump out. That is a traffic calming mechanism, it's called a chicane. I mean, you would do that on roads to try to slow people down, it is awkward, it's weird, but that's the point. For about the two-way traffic in that situation is the part that doesn't need any kind of traffic calming. So really the switch between having people go straight in a one-way fashion is being suggested to go around the bump out. The sacrifice for that is the bus offloading safety. Just
And that's why I proposed with the bus offloading, to keep it daily, and work with the Eagle Center, but barricades out and color. Offload it, barricades, directly compost, north again.
Yeah, and that's an operational and traffic control
Is
situation
Bailey
you have to deal
two-way
with.
then in that case, Dean?
Okay.
Is Bailey or Bailey two-way?
Well, Bailey's always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lawrence, in my proposal, it won't be a two-way, it'd be, barricades are down, buses park, and pick up the barricades, and it's one-way north.
The Eagle Center did state that they don't have any extra personnel to do traffic control or signs or barricades, so I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I asked Annette about that.
If that's the case, then they'll have to park the buses out on the road, I don't know, so.
I'm just trying to, I came in, obviously, if somebody's commenting to something that I don't know anything about or haven't heard. So the question mark is, the buses would continue to come in the way they are now, and they would park alongside the 100 building there.
Okay.
Facing, Main Street, Pembroke, I don't know my directions.
Yeah, right.
I better get my compass
North
out.
is toward the river, if you're and then down Lawrence is east.
Yeah. So basically the buses would continue to make that swing, which I think is ideal. Because we park, two buses right here, we stage there, but we always try to expedite them getting out of there as quickly as possible. We don't want to park a bus down here. We want to get it out and get them out, you know what I'm saying? So the only question I have is if you're heading north, there by that bump out, is there room for two cars to?
No, it would be, as Brian said, it would be a weird situation where your intuition would be that you have to tend to take turns.
That's what I'm saying, it's your turn, my turn type of thing.
There's no signage, it's the weird thing, and you've experienced some of this, Michael, but it's been going on a long time. We have major street reconstruction for 2 full summers, so people are doing whatever the heck they want, frankly.
Yeah.
It has become a little bit of a, what am I comfortable with, and now with the terminus of Main Street under construction, that's kind of happening again, so.
Yeah, no,
It's been a little weird.
well, thank God you're not in Rochester, that's all I can say, I wouldn't wanna be in downtown Rochester, so. But, I guess what I'm saying is, I had heard the other day, again, I've been out, doing other things, that the buses were gonna have to unload on the post office side, and that makes no sense. That made no sense to me at all, okay? So I'm in agreement with continuing to come that way, we can see the buses, we point to them, they know what to do, it's a slick system. I just, I really don't have an overall opinion about the rest of the two-way there,
When the buses come,
Yeah.
when the buses come, would you have somebody that could put out a couple of cones?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know, like I said, these guys should, reserve their commentary until, we discuss something, but what we do is when we have buses coming up, we have cones sitting right on the curbside, there's 3. And then down there on the corner too by the phone, and what we do is when the buses come in, then we put the cones off the back end of them, off the, the street side corner of them. And that's what we do, and then we move the bus along, so then we bring that other one up, you know what I'm saying? Because we don't wanna block that area down there. So.
No, I tried to be more observant too. Now, are you, to expedite their, you know, ingress, egress to your facility, are you leaving buses there or buses leaving and coming back for their?
They're leaving and coming back a lot of times, because like, there might be a cooperative thing going on with Lark Toys. So, you know, that's an example, but, you know.
Depends on the day.
Yeah, it really does, like the cruise ship ones unload, gone. You know what I'm saying? So I think we do a very good job there, keeping that flow going is what I'm trying to say to you. You know.
School buses might be parked there for an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the commentary about having it two-way right there. I'm hearing what people are saying. To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's just my opinion. Again, I'm coming in, I'm a new kid on the block here, so you know what I mean? I like the way it's set up right now, I like the way it's flowing. I guess that's a city decision, it's gotta be made there, but the bus traffic, the way we do it, the way we manage it is a whole lot, so.
I'm curious to the two-way, what brought that up? Rather than,
Looking for options.
I think it was, I think the thought was to allow the buses to unload on,
With the
just without, like, having to put out calls, so.
It was an original option we looked at last year.
Yeah.
John?
I'm kind of missing, you know, maybe it's because I'm a new resident, I've only been 5 or 6 years, but I'm missing what's so important, that someone gets to drive down Pembroke to the river to Lawrence, unless it's just for nostalgia's sake, because the most beautiful view of the Eagle Center and the fountain and everything down there is coming upwards and looking at it. If you know, that's a concern, but I just don't. And then I know I was, it was the postage stamp. Lots of people. And, you know, they were in the street, and I was, you know, Sarah and I went over, we were there for a while, and then we left, but, you know, the most logical way to leave was not to go, try to go up the one way, which, the way the buses would go, but you need to be able to go down Lawrence. So, from my house on, it probably needs to be two-way, so all those residents can exit that way and not have to, you know, go up.
where do you live?
What's that?
Where do you live again?
Right behind the post office.
Although, the house?
Right next to the grassy area, yeah.
And the other thing is, you know, that grassy area is used for Septoberfest, so,
Well,
you know, that,
for now.
that whole street during Septoberfest, and actually during things like the postage stamp and events, people are, you know, like I said, that almost becomes a plaza. Going for the buses, you can eliminate that whole street, turn the whole thing into a plaza, and you have a wonderful park there.
So. The residents I speak to would disagree with you, coming down Pembroke and seeing that fountain in front of you. If it stays the way it is now, you have to take it right on Main Street, a left on Bailey, a left on Lawrence, just to get there. And it makes no sense, you just go straight and you're there.
Okay, so
And then you look in your rearview mirror and see the greatest view.
if it's a weekday and it's not busy, I think people can just, like residents can just make their own decision to go down Pembroke, no one's gonna do anything about it.
We do it now.
Yeah, so I would just move that we leave it the way it is, and in residents during the week where it's slow, that wanna just drive down there and break the rules, they're not gonna get in trouble. They can just take it upon themselves to make that decision, and we just leave it how it's supposed to be. So that is a motion to leave it the way it is. I know you disagree.
We have a first and we have a second for the
Who
discussion.
seconded it?
Dean,
I totally disagree on that. Even as a visitor, you come down Pembroke Avenue, now you wanna go see that fountain. How the hell do you get to it? You have no idea how to get to it. You have no idea that you have to take a right, take a left, right? I mean, it doesn't make any damn sense.
I can't figure it out.
And
Well, isn't Pembroke, I mean, going north of Pembroke, it was going north to Big Joe Alley.
Big Joe Alley, yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, wait a
Well,
second,
you gotta go
wayfinding
left.
tells me,
And then you have
take a left and park.
Then you have to come back around and figure out, how the hell do I get to this fountain?
Well, do you wanna drive up to the fountain or walk up to the fountain? And so I guess, you know, and
I just don't think that we should give him, let our residents say, you can go the opposite direction when you want. It's their road, it's the way it was meant to be, and now we're saying, no, we're gonna.
well,
But
they
it
said
got
no,
significantly
they said no,
designed.
Dean, we changed this when we got the first funding, when we did all the rebuild for the riverfront revitalization. And this went through multiple hearings and multiple.
I made a motion
meetings.
last year on this, and I found out that I made the wrong motion.
And I appreciate
We may
it.
have made the right motion that's unpopular, I think, and
It was wrong.
I haven't been around much longer than Sarah and John. I totally want to do that drive. I know I'm not alone, but I want to do that drive. I do typically not get out of the fountain since I live close enough. I would drive by it much more often than I would walk it. But it was this concession to essentially pedestrian management that's a part of that bigger.
We got a plan here that will work, the legal center said, they will help work with us, and we can make this work for the residents in the Eagle Center. So we're just gonna do it for the Eagle Center.
I want to leave it alone. I mean,
So what,
So let's.
down Bailey, up Lawrence? And
just
then,
the way it is, just the way it is.
The cockeyed way it is.
is that how it is now?
Yeah.
It's all screwed up.
It flipped back and forth during street reconstruction because you had.
Yeah.
The way it is around Bailey and south on Pembroke.
Yeah.
That's where the
Upriver.
buses go.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you wanna
And then they
go,
offload
Yeah.
on the sidewalk.
So we're not driving towards the fountain right now.
so if you wanna go on Lawrence and go down the river, you have to know that you have to take a right on Main Street, a left on Bailey, and then another
Well, I
right.
assume that do not enter sign is an indication.
When I go to the cities, I get lost 100 times
Well,
on my way to traffic.
Well, I can tell you right now, go to Rochester right now, you're gonna get
Oh,
lost.
my
it's not the city, it's not.
I agree with you guys, leave it as
It's
is.
a small town Wabasha. I would think you'd wanna do what's right, not just what's needed.
I think that is what's right. I think
This
it's
is right.
safety of the buses and safety of pedestrians, I'm with you guys.
Yeah.
It's not
We
right.
have a motion, a second, and I think you'd probably be here all night, so I think I'll call the question, we'll entertain a vote, see what happens. We have a motion to leave the existing alignment.
As it was originally engineered.
As engineered.
Okay.
We have a motion, we second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Hey,
All right, Dean, I appreciate your thoughts on this, and I agree with you,
I'll be handing out numbers.
it is desirable to drive down there, it's just a part of the bigger overall traffic management.
You screwed over the citizen block. Good job.
All right, now we want to do the utility street project assessments, Brian?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of information in your packet on this. I'm just gonna run through the memo that kind of describes where we've been and where we're at today and what our recommendation is. So if you recall, it was actually exactly a year ago that we had, your July meeting last year, we had an improvement hearing for these projects. So it's one project from an assessment process standpoint, the mill and overlay project that's on multiple streets. Then you've got the Market Street reconstruction. We split that up into two contracts because they're different kind of construction and it made sense to do that. So last year we had the improvement hearing, we had some preliminary assessments that were presented in the preliminary engineering report. Those preliminary assessments for the mill and overlay and reclaim and pave project, they were estimated at about $1,825 per residential unit. Your assessment policy assesses based on equivalent residential units. So a residential house, there's one, they get that $1,825 assessment. commercial properties and others, there's a formula that multiplies, comes up with multiples of ERUs. So we applied that policy to those parcels, and that's what resulted in was $1,825 per ERU. On Market Street, the assessments ranged up to approximately $15,164 per parcel if that parcel was being assessed for street, sewer, and water, which is a fee that are. And those values reflected your policy target, your local improvement policy target, which says that you should assess 20% of the total project cost. That's what your policy says. That's how we applied that formula. So remember that 20% of total project costs. We're going to talk about that later. So as the public comment mentioned, special assessments by state law are intended to reflect the special benefit received by the property from an improvement. And under Minnesota law, the amount assessed can exceed the increase in property value attributable to the improvement. Well, that's a little bit of a difficult thing to determine without doing appraisals. Most cities do not do special benefit appraisals, especially for mill and overlay projects like this, because the assessments are typically very low, the appeal risk is low, and the dollar amount you're dealing with is low. Special benefit appraisals are actually very expensive to do. So we talked about appraisals on properties. This is not a residential home appraisal where you're appraising how much would this house sell for. It's a specialized appraisal where they have to go out and find comparable sales pre-project and post-project on the project to determine the special benefit that happened from the project. That's a difficult thing to do for projects like this because there aren't very many projects and there aren't very many sales. And so it's time consuming, it's expensive. We did get an estimate for doing that. I think for this project, it was upwards of $40,000 or $50,000. And that tracks with what we've seen on other projects. So that's why cities don't typically do that, because the risk is low and the cost is high. So most cities have a local improvement policy like you do that sets up a framework for determining how you establish assessments for projects, treats like properties the same, and you typically look at what the assessments were on prior projects that people paid and make sure you're in line with that according to inflation and those types of things. So that's the background on how we came up with the assessments. I want to talk about the golf course assessment specifically. So as you know, using that methodology in your local improvement policy, the golf course gets a significant assessment because there's a significant frontage on the project. The logic behind that, even if you did a special benefit appraisal, they look at highest and best use of the property. Well, golf course is not highest and best use of the property, so that's why you could justify a very high assessment for that, because if it were converted to residential property, you would have a significant number of lots. That's not saying that's what you have to do. You have some other things to consider here, as mentioned by the public comment, and as you know very well. So, although that assessment was calculated correctly, it creates a higher likelihood of appeal, which we talked about. And it would be difficult to defend relative to other properties for this type of improvement, unless you look at that highest and best use, which is a whole other category to look at. So what we presented in our memo and report to you was a 50% reduction in that assessment, which resulted in an assessment of about $17,500. That was based on trying to keep the preliminary assessment amount per ERU for the residential properties similar to what was in the preliminary assessment, and meet the required target that you need to hit for your bond. And we talked about your policy saying you have to assess 20% of the total project cost. Under bonding law, you need to assess a minimum of 20% of the amount you bonded for. That's what the law says. And so Mike Lubani gave us a number based on the bonds that you sold, and that number is $155,000. So that's how we came up with that $17,500 number, the 50% reduction. Because the math worked out generally to keep everybody else's assessments similar and reduce the golf courses by a significant amount. The math that I was doing was to try to determine how much would everybody else's assessment go up if you reduce the golf course assessment down to $10,000 or down to double a residential assessment. So here's those numbers. When I said we did the math to come out similar to what the original assessment was, they're actually $42 higher, so just remember that, because we're talking about numbers here. So these assessments are $42 higher than what we had in the preliminary. If you reduce the golf course assessment down to $10,000, it's an additional $104 per property, or a total of $146 above what the preliminary was. Okay, so everybody's got to go up $146 from what the preliminary was, $104 from what's shown in here. If you reduce it down to double a residential assessment, those amounts go up an additional $189, or a total of $231 from the preliminary assessment. And that's based on still meeting that target of $155,000 that you have to meet to satisfy the law with respect to the bond. So keep that in mind if you're considering a reduction. That's what would happen. We're gonna get to talking about what I know Jeff wants to talk about, is those private street properties, because that'll play into this too, but that's a little more complicated.
I'll just add that Ryan stated, later in the game, can we say, well, we just increase the city's contribution towards the project and adjust our estimates? According to Brian, we have to do this for the bonding, and if they appeal, et cetera, we figure that out later in the appeal process, but then ultimately it still would come on to everyone else that's essentially taxed more, the whole city would.
Right. I think your responsibility is to adopt an assessment role that assesses the minimum amount that you said you were gonna do with the bond. Something happens after that, it's an appeal process, you don't have control of that. So, if you end up assessing less because of the appeal process, I don't think you get penalized for that,
But
with
what
respect to
was
that bond.
referenced by Jim is it requires an appeal to the city clerk in writing and an appeal to district court.
Yeah, that's the appeal process for the assessment. They have to file an appeal at the hearing, written, and then they have to follow it up by filing the district court, and that's the
How much
official.
more money does that cost?
Depends on if they do it themselves or hire an attorney, so that's usually the discussion that's had between parties, is how much money you wanna spend on attorneys, either one. So you
I think we're gonna be a lot of deals with it, I believe.
Don't suggest. Don't suggest.
I will.
It's possible. These amounts are relatively low, and that's usually the argument, is how much does it cost to appeal versus how much are you being assessed, and the city has to consider that, property owners have to consider that. So you typically don't see appeals on lower dollar amounts, so this golf course is a higher dollar amount, perhaps you will. I'm gonna jump ahead and then we'll just talk about those private properties and on that subject. So as we've talked about before, and as Jeff has mentioned and others, I want to point out we made a mistake in the original preliminary engineering
Just for a
report.
second.
Yes.
Can you pull up Buena Vista Drive on the project improvement
Yeah.
street, so we can at least
Yeah,
everybody
very
understand what we're
tiny,
talking about?
But I wanna need for this.
Is
I
it-
got it up.
Yeah.
Is this the one? No.
The page down.
Yeah, just scroll down.
Oh, you're in the right document.
Sorry.
It's the third page. There you go. Oh. Nope, back up one.
Okay, that's it.
So when we prepared the preliminary assessment role in the report, we originally didn't recognize that that was a private road. And so we prepared the preliminary assessment report and the cost estimate that would improve that entire roadway all the way up to where the right of way ends there. So when we recognized that was a private street, we modified the construction costs, we modified the figure, we forgot to take off the private properties. Okay, so the preliminary assessment role had properties on the private road being assessed, which was a mistake, it wasn't intentional. So that explains why it was in there originally. We've had some discussion, I think, at meetings, and there's been some email correspondence too about, can you assess properties that don't directly abut? I think we've established, and I agree, yes, you can, you absolutely can. There are situations where you do that. It's not typical, it's even more difficult to defend. It would be a smaller amount, you could do it. If you decided to do that, you could assess the properties on Buena Vista, There are properties off the end of Skyline Drive you could assess, and as the commenter mentioned, Jim mentioned, there's properties off another private road you could assess. So you could do that, but you would have to start the assessment process over again because they were not given notice for the project originally, so we have to go back and hold another improvement hearing and do that whole process. Ultimately, that would reduce everyone's assessment because you would have more properties to assess. You would have to determine what's the appropriate amount to assess them. And I think you would have even higher a likelihood of appeal. So we don't recommend doing that. You can do it, you absolutely can do it. We wouldn't recommend it. We don't see other cities do it. And that would be our recommendation. Back to the other assessment adjustments, we switched to the Market Street project. As I mentioned earlier, you want to actually go to that drawing, is that finished on the first stage? Oh, yeah. So you can kind of see, this is a really goofy street. This is not a standard street project where you have a block with a bunch of lots on it. It's an intersection, there's a lot of pavement, there's corner lots, there's not a lot of properties to assess. So we use your policy to calculate assessments on this. It comes out really high for everybody because there's just not that many properties to assess. So what we did with that is again, took the number that Mike gave us for the minimum amount you can assess, 20% of what you bonded for on that project, which was a lower amount because you have utility costs in that project. And we established the assessments based on that, and it did reduce them down from down to about $9,100 per parcel, which for sewer, water, and street is very, very similar to what you assess for the downtown project for an ERU. So with some inflation considered in, so that tracks with what you've done in the past. I talked about the bonding requirements, talked about the private properties, so yeah, our recommendation would be that you review this draft assessment roll and that you make any adjustments you see fit, or give us direction to make any adjustments you see fit, and we will prepare the assessment roll, adjust the assessment roll appropriately. Your next step in the process would be to pass a resolution with determining the amount to be assessed, ordering preparation of the assessment roll, and then setting the hearing date. There's 2 resolutions for that. So that would set it for August. You do have the ability to table this and think about it, make a decision later. You can pick this back up at your August meeting, set the assessment hearing for September if you would like to do that. We don't want to go later than that, because I think we have to certify the assessments of the county by October, so we got a little bit of a crunch here to get these certified.
Project, the 2023 project. Which property downtown paid 17,000 or 9,000?
It's 7,000 and 9,000.
Lots of them, like ours was 9 or 10 or 13, or something like that, our one year.
One year was right around that high 8 or $9,000 number.
So you were.
Yeah.
Right.
So any frontage like
Yeah,
ours.
anybody with 1 ERU, any of the residential properties did. There were some of the downtown properties that are more than 1 ERU based on some of the apartments and things like that, but a lot of them were 1 ERU just based on frontage, so.
Any questions for Brian about
Oh,
those
I got
numbers?
lots of comments.
Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead and put voice just back up there. Okay, and you have, first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and read it again, what Arlo read, the cost of any, this is from 429.051. The cost of any improvement or any part thereof may be assessed upon property benefited by the improvement, doesn't say special benefit. Based upon the benefits received, whether or not the property abuts the improvement, and there's some other stuff about where the money comes from. Okay, in the Wabasha local improvement policy, they use the same language in there, whether or not the property abuts the improvement. Okay, on Buena Vista Drive, Skyline Drive, these roads provide the only access to properties that use private roads that extend past the terminus of the project roads. Any improvement on Buena Vista Drive and Skyline Drive benefit these properties the same as properties that abut the road projects. I mean, if you use a but-for argument, but for the city of Wabasha building and maintaining Buena Vista Drive and Skyline Drive, all properties that use private roads that extend past the terminus of project roads have vehicular access to their homes and benefit from these improvements. I don't wanna know how that can be argued, how someone could argue against that.
I don't wanna argue against that, I just want to
I'm
point
just
out
saying,
the
how could it-
complication with it. Can you bring up Google Maps quick and show City of Wabasha? I just want to read an example.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you have no, if you don't, those other houses, that's the only way the fire department can get there, the ambulance can get there,
Go to
the
the south
police.
part of town here.
He's not saying we can't do it.
And if you further read the statute.
And I tend to agree with you.
Well, I'm
So-
saying it's obvious, that's a fair thing to do. There's 24 homes that are not.
See where Big River's. Maybe shame on us for not pushing this sooner, but.
I tried to
Go to the left a little bit, or slide this way.
Yeah, my computer is a little slow, by Big River up here, okay.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's just taking its time to load the satellite.
an example of this, Jeff, would be a cul-de-sac. So you can make the same argument on a cul-de-sac, that but for the other streets that connect to a cul-de-sac, that cul-de-sac would not have access. So we have in the past, you don't typically see cul-de-sac like 14th Court or Circle Drive, those two cul-de-sacs paying for assessments on Pierce Avenue or other roadways that lead to it. So this is why it's a bit of a Pandora's box to get into, because now you're looking at, you know,
Where's that
what
end?
other properties. The simple argument I make, everybody drives on somebody else's street to get to their house. Everybody
Not to
has
these
to.
houses, not to my house. You can't get to my house unless you drive on Buena Vista Drive.
Nobody can get to their house without driving on somebody else's street.
Could you take the mentality that they are abutting on their own public street though? Whereas these other properties aren't, they're just on a private
You
street.
could, but the flip argument to that I've heard property owners make, and makes sense to me, is that they pay taxes the same as everybody else. They don't receive street maintenance. They don't receive any improvements on their street. They have to pay for all that themselves, and when their street goes to heck, they have to pay to reconstruct it. So that's the flip argument to that, is they bear all of the costs for their street. They are 100% assessed for their street because they have to pay for it when it's improved. That's the flip argument to that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Jackie,
when if we were to redo, let's say 14th Street. And we were to previously have charged them for pure, now we can't assess them. We already got.
Your policy has I think it's a 10 or a 15-year period where if like a lot has been assessed for previous improvement, they can't be assessed.
So under the good argument, yeah, but.
Yeah. I think I've said all I can say on that. I don't want to get into an argument. I'm not trying to argue.
If we did do the reassess the whole thing and tried to include those properties, how does that complicate timing? You know, you pointed out some timeline stuff.
You wouldn't be able to certify the assessments until for 2028.
What's that gonna do to the project funding?
You'd have no revenue to pay the bonds, or you would have no revenue. You would lack the assessment revenue to pay the bonds, you know, in that initial period. So Mike would have to look at that, see what impact it has.
Okay.
Can I just bring up one thing that's kind of related to what Brian here has been talking, if you don't mind taking Google Maps, go up to Coffee Mill Drive.
Okay.
Which is separate from everything that's been discussed, and I think it's very relevant to the last topic you guys were all just discussing, because this is gonna come.
So,
Your Coffee Mill Drive. that's really-
okay.
It's the way you get into the golf course, so you find the golf course.
Go east.
Alright.
You have to
There we
turn, you have to, yeah, you're going the wrong way.
Wasn't
Going
I'm
the
going the
way.
wrong way.
There you go, there's a ski hill.
Find yourself in the city, there you go, there you see the golf course, go off there.
Okay, yeah, right, there you go. Okay, now zoom in on, okay, just stop right there almost. Coffee Mill Drive comes out from Highway 60. It's a city street. There are really only two homeowners. Fairly recent one right up off Highway Highway 60, I don't even know their name, they built a pole barn house that's right off Highway 60 when you turn. And my wife and I. Then you have a private road coming off that serves 3 houses, but there's 50 people that live where Coffee Mill Drive terminates, it's Alpine Ridge. So when Coffee Mill Drive, which is getting abused, is 30 years old, when that needs improvement, how are you gonna assess that? It's no different than what you're all talking about, is who uses it? The people who live at the other end, what you were just saying, the terminus.
The other end will get assessed with Alpine.
Huh?
The other end will get assessed when we redo Alpine.
When you do Alpine, but I'm talking, if you just did Coffee Mill Drive.
All of them should be assessed.
This is why I want to think very, very
Very
hard.
policy oriented,
When
yeah.
you plat properties, what kind of public infrastructure you're building to serve those properties. And it's just, I mean, you can't rewind the clock here. It's just a horrible idea to run a public street through a golf course.
Yeah.
I mean,
I tried to get rid of private roads. Don't do that, we're in trouble with Brian. So direction for staff, I mean, you've given us some quick numbers here, if I understand correctly, if we reached the suggested 10,000 mark, which apparently was just tossed out as a, maybe we get there, it looks like it would be about $146 additional to homeowners. If we reached the compromise of a double a residential, $300 to $89.
231.
230, okay, I have one. So does anyone have an appetite for staff to work on that or not?
What are your thoughts? I mean, if we offered, you pay 10 grand right now, is that something that golf course would entertain, or?
I'll be honest with you, 10 grand again is, we have to weigh the pros and cons of the appeal. When I was here last fall, or whenever that was, and I said, we as the golf course had talked about wanting to be neighborly, paying double, or even triple what any one homeowner is paying. We don't use the road, they benefit from it, we'd be willing to go there, that's still less than $10,000. So if we can come up with something like that, I have to go to the other board members, but I'm sure we can come to an agreement.
In like the golf course, I have a really big problem with Jeff and Sharon out on Buena Vista too, where they don't use the road at all.
No access.
There's no access to it, and they're gonna bear probably the brunt of the.
Even Charlie Richards, it's questionable whether he enters his shop from County Road 30 or Buena Vista,
Right.
on the corner there.
So yeah, it's a broken system for sure.
Well, we all have streets that surround us that our properties are dependent on and carry the utilities through the community, and it's easy to look at anybody as being unfairly treated by infrastructure that they didn't design, but we have to maintain it, so we have to have kind of consistent approach to that.
I mean, my argument is, when they did Charles Street, they were assessed, right? And when we did Main Street, they were assessed 20%. And when we did other streets, they were assessed 20%.
And it surprised the Eagle Center too, they didn't feel that it was, that their nonprofit status really warranted it, but that's not an exclusion for them.
I don't know how we reduce that. And yet keep our. I don't know.
Well, you only reduce it by making it somebody else's burden.
Oh,
so
right.
It's not that we can give anybody a discount, it's a cost shift.
And if we do reduce it, then we create problems down the road.
I can't imagine anybody that lives beyond the terminus of Skyline Drive objecting to pay for what they just got improved. We don't use it, they use it. You could get into another argument with the other private roads that use the short amount the same as golf course, but those beyond, I mean, that's common sense.
That's the thing, it is common sense, and that's actually almost, if you count those other ones, that's 21 properties that are totally dependent on these two roads to get access to their house. Okay, and they're not included in this, they're getting a free ride.
But when they come to the city with a desire, and looking at Tony, I'm sorry, not trying to look past it, but Tony, when they come to the city wanting us to take over their private drive, they haven't really wanted to do that either, I think. is-
Right, that's because we don't wanna pay to make it to city standards.
Right.
But we don't need, I mean, that's, the city road is what allows us to have access to our properties. That's the common sense thing here. So
So do you
I
want,
think we need to have the city attorney decide if those other properties make a decision whether they benefit from these road improvements.
I think we're being told we can do it, it's just that it's can of worms.
Yeah, but we get an opinion from the city attorney.
I think we can do it.
I can tell you that the attorney's not gonna give you an opinion on
We
what.
should do it.
He's gonna say you can't assess it.
Also,
A benefit.
He doesn't determine that. He would tell you to get a special benefit appraisal. And we could do that. I mean, in fact, if you wanna do that,
I think you were supposed to, according to subsection 5 of the Wabasha local improvement policy, you're supposed to say, to assist the city council to determine the value of benefits that are received, the city council shall direct an appraisal report of estimated benefits to be taken by an accredited real estate professional. So who was our real estate professional for this? Did you do one?
I explained why
we
we
didn't
don't
do it
that.
because it was gonna be a $40,000.
Well, then, so we didn't do it even though it says we have to, it says shall.
Well, why would we
I'm
incur
just saying,
$40,000
I'm
on
just saying,
assessment?
we're not following our policy.
When we set up this policy,
That's fine.
didn't we have
That was in Hawaii.
do that and prove that the 20% was viable?
We did in 20.
We did that, right? So I think that's where we said our policy holds true. We can do 20% because we've done this we've done this assessment for this appraisal.
I'm not hearing any clear direction for staff. Does anybody want Brian to take a look at the actual impacts, property by property? I don't even know what the process would be, property by property, if the actual abutting properties on Skyline, was that kind of what you were setting up as one option that we take a look at further, is the abutting properties, what would be the increase if there's a decrease permitted?
Well, yeah, that's the numbers those would be the numbers if we adjust the golf course assessment.
I did look up, what does it look like if we reopen the whole process and it's postponed to 2028? And, you know, we would have to cover, what I'm looking at, if I'm looking at it correctly, is about $20,000 per year in special assessment. So I have to confirm that, but I'm not showing, that's what I'm looking at the bond series that we approved, is like, I mean, you would probably have to cash flow it for 1 year and then get paid back your assessments later. It wouldn't, we'd eventually get paid, we just have to cover the assessment. So I don't see it as a huge barrier to start over. I think the debate is, does that set us up for needing to do adding cul-de-sacs or something?
Yeah, if you're gonna do that, I would suggest you take a whole look at your policy to determine how do we handle the next time you've got a cul-de-sac or something off a street project that has no other access. We need direction on how to handle that.
And we have to assess for the bonding, is that correct?
You do because you sold an improvement bond. You could talk to them, this doesn't help for this project, he's already sold the bonds, but there's alternatives called street reconstruction bond, where you have to do a plan for the whole city, you have a public hearing, there's a reverse referendum provision, and then you don't have to assess. There's a few cities that do that, but a lot of them don't because you can't make improvements. So we couldn't do that for Market Street because you can't add curb, you can't widen, you can't
You just reconstruct what's there.
exactly what's back there. This is why you talk to your legislators, you need street improvement district legislation. It's come up with the legislature many times. It's what small state Minnesota cities need, because you don't have a commercial tax base like the metro area does. And it gets killed in the legislature every time it comes up because of the large commercial properties in the metro don't want it. And so argue for that, because you have the ability to do that for sidewalks. You have the ability to do it for stormwater improvements. You can do it for streets. It doesn't make any sense. You have a utility for water, you have a utility for sewer, you have a revenue source, you can do it for sidewalks, do it for stormwater. began to look for streets. We have no revenue source for street outside of tax revenue. But, sorry, that's my speech on that.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Any recommendation for staff? Motion table to.
Can we table this for a month? There's more information than I anticipated tonight.
Motion to table in a second.
I'll second
Go first and a second, further discussion.
Where does that put us for, I think if you go on to approve it, everyone now owes us their assessments if they don't wanna pay interest by December 31st.
Yeah,
So,
that's the one disadvantage. You can still finish this, provided you don't do multiple months of this. You still finish in time to certify the county. The only issue it creates for people is they can prepay their assessment without interest up until, I think, the end of the year here. So you kind of shorten that period they have to make that decision and do that. They can pay it without interest to the county, I think, for a period after that, but yeah, there's just steps.
As soon as January of the year of assessment hits, they have to pay all 12 months of assessment interest.
Okay, well, yeah, there's different periods.
Just for one quick note for a focus, I think I'm leaning towards minimizing abutting properties that are not benefited, like the golf course and the Reamer property on Buena Vista. If that means the other people have to share or have to take on more of the burden, it's kind of where I'm at right now.
How does that work for other properties in town in the future? Like River Drive South?
What about River Drive South?
We do a full overhaul on that. Now you have, Fitzgerald that own 400 yards of it. Do they get the reduction? Do they?
Well, you know, that's a different scenario. They're gonna use the road. The golf course doesn't use the road at all. Jeff and Sharon don't use that road at all.
Use the road for primary foreign.
Well, I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I don't know.
I think that the assessment policy works well and established three wards, if you will, you know. But when we start to do these expansions and we have, you know, development that's stretched out past that area, so there's a connector or whatever, or alongside the golf course, that's where it gets a little nebulous. And that's like, I think we need that time to kind of think about that a little bit. I'm kind of leaning toward what you said.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, no, I get it, and I think when we look to do, you know, River Drive South, we might have to have this conversation again.
Yeah, maybe there's not a general rule, maybe it's a case by case.
Yeah, and I think the established improvement policy has worked, and it's proven to work in the last, how many projects have we done, like all kinds of them, right? We didn't have a policy and it was a mess, we got a policy and it's been working really well. So that's good, that part's good. We have these anomalies, these things come up to, you know, because it was built way before we had a policy, or whatever the case may be.
This is one of the first rural projects we've done, so it's like, whoa.
Yeah, no,
So like, he talks about like coffee mills, gonna be the same thing. Whether we do Alpine Ridge at the same time or just coffee mill, we're gonna run into the same problems. So it'd be nice to, I don't know if you can have a rural option, urban and rural, when you get out there. I don't know anything about that, but
gives us opportunity to look at it a little bit more.
Caroline pointed out we can do this at our next special meeting too. She will not be there, but if you have questions early on and wanna have Brian's staff take a look at those questions.
yeah, you guys are meeting next week already at 9 AM?
Monday.
Monday.
Oh, that's really soon.
Yeah, that's really
So,
That's too
this
soon.
will probably be our next regular August meeting at this time. What's your questions to staff?
I think I would like to say, I'm worried about giving property owners such short notice, so I will talk to Mike and Bonnie and just get the information. If we postpone this, or Tyler can do that, what are we looking, if we postpone receiving the assessment, can we cover it for an extra year? So that people have more time and make that interest-free lump sum one-time payment. Otherwise, we'll be notifying them in August or September You know.
Notify them in August, if you decided at your August meeting, the notices would go out for September.
Okay, so they get notice and said, well, it's not.
Seems like that's
not
just
bad.
for the downtown project.
Okay.
Kind of in a position to do it or not, so.
Okay. Right. Do you want me to explore if you were to redo the system? Can we cover it so then we don't collect it in 2028? Is that research you wanna ask about, or?
Seems
Are
really
we-
disruptive to me, but.
Do we wanna go down that road of this time?
I would like to see all the properties that need those two roads to get to their homes be included in the roll. That's just a common sense, fair thing.
I disagree. I mean, it is a common saying, I think we should look at it in the future. But we don't do it for cul-de-sacs, we don't do it for other things that we haven't done, let me put it that way. Should we do it? Absolutely. But for this project, I just think we haven't updated our policy on it, and I just think that's like I hear John, it's work. Now we're getting into these areas where now we're gonna have to tweak it a little bit.
But we have to be fair to the homeowners around here too, when we do improvements.
Well, we didn't do it at 14th Street, so.
I don't remember, I don't know.
Then I mean, that's why I'm saying we're piecemealing this right now. I agree 100% the way you're looking at it, but for this project, I just don't think we can do it, but. And I'm all for the golf course reducing theirs as much as we possibly can.
So it sounds like there's some consensus on that, looking at property owners adjacent, which to your point, there is value in their adjacency to a golf course, so there's a, unclear but obvious, relationship between their property value and the property that's taking a look at the assessment that they're facing.
I just think you run into a problem right now on Skyline Heights. How much do we charge those two individuals that have a house on that when they only use Skyline for what, 100 feet? Do we charge them the full amount or not? That's what I'm getting at. The ones at the other end of Skyline, I can argue that one, but the ones that are by the shed, how are we managing those 8 houses I think there is back there? Because they literally only use Skyline for 100 feet. So what do we do?
But they should be assessed too, because
Assess what amount? Because you can't assess them the same amount as the people at the other end of Skyline.
they use Skyline Drive to get to their home.
Not very much of it though.
Yeah, but even 100 feet, this is why it's not even comparable. That's why for this project, I think we cannot do it, but I just throw it out there.
Tim,
I do think we need to look at it.
you raised a very valid point, because that's exactly the golf course's point. By the way, it's 100 yards, 120, I measured it out. We use 120 yards, and it's actually 12 homeowners up towards the maintenance shed. They use that 120 yards, whereas the 8 homeowners beyond the circle, the terminus of Skyline, they use that entire Skyline. So how you come up with a formula is kind of based on usage. I mean, you're getting into.
But it's not a usage, it's not a fee for usage, so.
I know.
My 2013 assessment when I moved here as a new resident was like $8,000 or $9,000. I use less than 100 feet. If you think of it as the frontage of my house or the frontage of my business for $13,000, it's not about use. It's about how do you pay for the infrastructure that abuts your property. That's how the assessment policy is formed, so.
Well, aren't there certain times there's utilities or improvements within the city confines that essentially are borne by all city residents?
Including these streets, which are 80% funded by tax dollars.
So that's what I'm saying, I guess in a way, anybody up there who benefits should share in some costs.
And they are, by virtue of their taxes. They're in on the 80% already. They're not paying nothing. They're just not paying the assessment that is related to the special benefit. So. Okay, so we're gonna table it. That's the motion. We have, we'll call for a vote. All
And
those in-
then what is staff researching? We're researching nothing, you just wanna think about it.
I just did that,
Okay,
yeah.
alright.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm abstaining.
Okay, opposed? Say no. Abstain? Yeah, okay. We have a procedural error, but I think we're okay, because we have quorum here beyond Jim, but we do need to swear Jim in, just realized, so do you wanna do that? So Jim, you'll have just this short paragraph to read, and, Jessica Pearl. Yeah. You're gonna raise your right hand. And repeat after me. I
I, Jim Betts,
I, Jim Clyde,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
of the state of Minnesota,
of the state of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I'll faithfully discharge
the duties of office of the City Council
the duties of office of City Council
of the City of Wabasha,
of the City of Wabasha,
Minnesota,
Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment
to the best of my judgment
and ability,
and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
That's more fun when there are people here.
Did I bring that up at the beginning of the meeting?
I did, but she clarified. All right, let's see, let's click off from the agenda here. Sorry, I went to the statute, I wanted to go back. Thank you, Brian, you surely can leave us with that if you need to. Yeah, and I urge people to read the full statute too, just so you have the spirit of it. Okay. Discussion on the pay market study options.
Okay, we're just trying to plan for the budget in the middle of preliminary, so I'm just trying to get, my main purpose of bringing it up now is to know what is going in the budget, but on the other hand, we've been meeting for 2 hours, so if people wanna postpone this, nothing in here is urgent. But we did discuss considering a market study for public works and or citywide in advance of 2027 police union negotiations. Historically, whatever police unions have received, all cities receive that increase. But then we had a couple years of a market adjustment specific to police officers, and of course, employees are paying attention to that and wondering about their market study. And it's a little bit confusing because of the timing, but next year, we go with the same format, me, Jeff, and Brian will be negotiating pay for police in advance of 2028. And so we don't have no idea what's gonna happen with that. If we approve, again, some sort of market adjustment specifically because of the pay of police, I think all city employees, but in particular Public Works, will want a market study for that position. So, I just put down 4 different options here. As shared, mainly concerned, I think, turnover and then lack of applicants for vacant position. John, at the last meeting, you asked me to present pricing information on comparable city pay, and I've attached it. There's no, I think, clear message. Some are higher, some are lower, some are the same. I did not, and neither am I a salaried professional to study everyone's job descriptions and tell you if I was looking at something comparable. I found a similar job description. So I attached that. I did not do any analysis or averages on that because, again, that's a lot of time of what a consultant would do. I just did get quotes on the cost of a study, and I've included that in the staff summary of all jobs, 10 benchmark jobs. So we could be looking at a market study, we could be looking at, I saw that in 2018, we just changed pay grades for public works tech assistants. I'm not in favor of just changing grades for one position because it impacts everything else. I am in favor of a market study. Now or in the future, I talked about, we could do the market study right now. Part of it, I think, is the consultant says, do we wanna be aggressive in our pay? I think last time we just said we wanted the average. I also discussed just bringing back incentives for PW techs to get a 1-step increase for certifications. I shared that we don't think that that's necessarily going to address getting more applicants. It'd be a pretty minimal 50-cent kind of thing, but it's something we could put out there. That's what it was in place prior to our study. Yeah, so I've presented options here. Just general best practices, if you're gonna do study, have a consultant do, because it allows them to take a look at job descriptions and doesn't put me in a position of, I think they all maybe have theories, I'm always getting told, oh, you did this for that, you know, but takes my bias out. I work closely with everybody. If we were gonna do it, I would say we gotta do it committee and look at averages and decide how we wanna do it. But I think what was pointed out is job descriptions can be varied. Yeah, do a one comprehensive study versus, one job. I think if you talk with Public Works though, they'd like their specific department to be looked at specifically, and we can talk about options there.
Quick question.
Yeah.
We did a citywide market study at one point, didn't we? When was that? 2022.
Yep, did I put that somewhere?
Yeah, it's number one.
Oh, sorry.
So the
Should've read it
idea
closer.
was, it'd be 5 years next year to start it again. So.
Sounds about right to do another market study, it seems like.
So all jobs was 6,300, 10 benchmark jobs was 4,000, 6 benchmark jobs was 3,000, and then there was some extra cost to look at our pay grid and cost implementation, and I said if we collaborate on that, it's $250 an hour, so, but. I don't know.
If we're gonna do, we should just do the all jobs.
I think so too.
How do our salaries compare with the private sector?
Haven't studied that.
That would be interesting.
Does the market study look at that?
No.
I mean, what private sector, like if we lose a guy, 'cause he
Well,
starts on.
the job description, there's similar job descriptions in the real world. I'm just curious what the.
I don't
it
know
seems
where that, I
like-
don't know where that ends, like,
Well, it seems like, you know, nationally, average salaries have gone up 3 or 4% a year, if you read the data. But our people are getting 4 to 6% every year.
well, it depends on the industry, you know.
Well, I know that, I'm just saying average, that's why the
The
industry.
average doesn't really tell you anything, we've got very specific job descriptions, so like, you know, our highly skilled public works team, you know, if they go into a completely different role because they have the skill set, because they were in our public works, they might get paid a lot more, or, you know, I don't think we're not gaining people from the public sector because our wages, I think, if anything, we're not keeping people in public works because of the private sector opportunities, that's just, people's feet are telling us that. Not always, you know, might went to another, or might went to another city, but
My only hesitation is that it's always shows that we're below market. And so do we just use the money we were gonna pay for the study to raise salaries instead of spending it so they can tell us we need to raise salaries, you know?
well, we wanna know where we are with regard to the market, like the consultant asked, do you want to be aggressive? We've got these important public works positions that are vacant, you're not getting applicants, do you need to be more aggressive in that area? Versus, you know, maybe our city hall jobs, we're not losing people, so I think it's, you know, guessing is okay, guessing is fine, you can take a look at Indeed, but I mean, I think it's, we can be a little more specific than that.
I would do all jobs and do the cost study.
I would just figure it out on our own and not do the study.
The problem is, if you look at the public works, just for an example, I mean, all the cities that were listed in our packet were right there. They were either 50 cents above, below. So if we're losing people, well, it's not really necessarily always because of money.
At least not in a comparable job, so if we lose somebody to a county or if we lose somebody to the private sector, that's a different comparison.
That one, where it says Wabasha Public Works pay, I thought we just hired Eric at $23.80, not $26.13.
know if I've seen that from the job.
Boy, that would be, that would mess us up if that's
Yeah.
the case. Let's just look at the public works tech job, like, I bet that old ad is up there. Wabasha, public works. Can you look up anything on your system? Yeah, that's from 2020. With how much we started Eric at, or what it was posted at. Okay,
Yeah, let's try and find it. I just don't know when.
yeah,
Years it is, but that's my, so I would do it in 2027.
oh,
Big motion.
I'll make a motion that we do a study of all jobs in 2027.
I think it should be done every 5 years.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, very good. Yep. Sorry, when I was trying to hear, sorry. All right, and we have an additional business item here, John wants to add. The item that Michael brought up.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve those 2 dates for the cruise ship during the River Festival.
yeah,
Michael, seconds, I'll give it to Tim. First and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. All right, on to donation.
If you want, I'll have,
Oh, thank you, yeah.
which I'll second.
Motion by John, second by Tim.
Second one.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. I don't know why the donations been clean, it's just never wants to open. Anybody want to open?
I got it up. You want me to do it?
Fantastic, Brian.
Oh, shoot.
I don't do it.
I don't have it. Oh, I can see it. Okay, donations, library, $500 from Jane and Dennis Hager. $273.62, winter coffee supplies, Friends of the Library. $847.34 Toy Farmers Market and cash register for Children's Library. That's from Friends of the Library, and $70 birthday donation by Joe Raymer. Ambulance got a $1,000 anonymous donation. Fireworks, warehouse liquors $250, Myron and Michelle Sauls $500, Rotary of Wabasha $500, River Valley Outfitters $100, Fred and Diane Schulberg $100, Kellogg Firemen's Relief Association $500, California Overland Ltd $300, and Paul Bush $100. The pool got a $200 anonymous donation, and the athletic complex got a $416.67 donation from Wabasha Dentistry.
So motion to approve the.
I move.
Thank you, Tim. Jeff, are you okay with a second?
Sure.
All right, I don't know if my right ear is better. First from Tim, second from Jeff. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. And we have a couple announcements. We have our budget workshop Tuesday, August 25th. That'll be at the library gym. So that'll be the first time that staff gives us kind of their preliminary budget since we've expended about half of this year's funds. We take a look at what we think that means for the rest of the year and whether there needs to be changes for next year. And then a special meeting at 9 AM next Monday, that's at City Hall, right?
Yes.
All right,
Relates to the Barge Show.
related to the Barge Show bonding. Get those on your calendar?
I'll zoom in.
Okay, sounds good. And we have a motion.
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you, Jim. Second. All right, thanks, Dean. I thought I heard you say yay. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed say no. Thank you, Jim. It's longer than usual. We like to keep it shorter. There's a lot going on.
Exactly.
I don't know what to do with these assessments.
They need to, have a rule.